How do I apply for accommodation at University of Manchester? Can I choose my flatmates? Okay, a question a lot of people are confused about. Is it better to live on campus or off campus? What amenities are provided in the hall? I'll talk a bit about my experience with the accommodations. How much does accommodation cost on average? If you're living in Uni Accommodation, you can actually become an event rep of that accommodation. Let's say you get Oak House and you're like, oh shit, start looking for private accommodations.
She calls me day and night.
Okay, so I'll answer some frequently asked questions about university. First one is, how do I apply for accommodation at University of Manchester? So you'll receive a mail which will have a link wherein you can choose your top 5 priorities, as I mentioned earlier, and then it will randomly allocate you one of them. After you have applied for the same, I think after A-level results, they allocate you your accommodation, and then they give you like a time span of 7 to 10 days, and you have to submit a deposit. And last year and this year, the deposit was £400 to actually reserve the room for yourself. If you decide to cancel the room like before you come to university, they will give you back the deposit, but not after the contract has started though. Can I choose my flatmates? No, you cannot. That's completely out of your control. But that's also a fun part. Like, you get to meet 10 random new people, which may or may not be the best people for you. I had great flatmates, but all the best for your flatmates. What amenities are provided in the halls of residence? So I can tell you about Unsworth Park. So there was a vacuum cleaner, there was an iron, there's also a kettle which you can use for boiling water. In your room, you're gonna have a dustbin and a toilet brush holder. That was the case in Unsworth Park, so yeah. Okay, a question a lot of people are confused about. Is it better to live on campus or off campus? Actually, in this scenario, there is no on campus. Everything is off campus only. However, there are options of private accommodations, which a lot of you guys are considering and confused about. What should I do? So the thing is, with accommodation, there's a huge fuss, honestly. And if you have gotten your acceptance late or you're late to anything, then there's a huge chance that you don't have any option. You have to go for a private accommodation, which is fine as well. Or let's say you get Oak House and you're like, oh shit, then you start looking for private accommodations, which is fair enough. I don't know what works the best for you. I will just give you a few points. In Uni Accommodation, you get to, as everyone knows, you get to socialize a lot more. You have students around you. However, there are also a lot of private accommodations which are actually student accommodation. So there are already only students living in those accommodations. Like there is IQ Winslow, there is Vita, which is unnecessarily expensive, by the way. There are quite a few more which might fit in your budget as well. So if you're going for private accommodation, again, that is fine as well. But I would say if you have an option of a good uni accommodation, then just go with it. If you don't have any other option, then private accommodation is going to be just fine. Don't worry that much about socializing. I think if you know how to do it, you'll anyway end up doing it. I shouldn't be the one saying it because I had next to zero social life, but that's amazing. If you have decided that you want to take a private accommodation and you're not sure how to find the right one, there are a lot of websites available which help you actually find private accommodations. There is Amber Students, which I used to use earlier. I think they're still working, but similarly there are many more. Manchester Student Homes is there, so you can check out those and look for private accommodations. And in this case, you honestly just have to take a leap of faith. Just decide the final accommodation using those pictures itself. But whatever you get, don't worry. Even if you don't get the best one, at the end of it, after the first semester, it'll just feel like home to you, and you can always shift to a better accommodation in the next year. For house hunting, I have like 6 vlogs made just for house hunting, and yet I ended up with the same accommodation, which is great of me. So I'm sure you'll get yours as well. How much does accommodation cost on average? So I mean, there's a range of it. Like, it starts from like Oak House, and the most expensive accommodation is Unsworth Park and Denmark Road, which as of 2023, I think it costs £190 per week. And again, I'm going to be living in Unsworth Park this year as well because I love the Fallowfield campus and I love Unsworth Park. So okay, lastly, I'll talk a bit about my experience with the accommodation. So I had chosen, all of them were ensuite because I needed a private washroom, and all of them, because they were all ensuite, then that's why they were also self-catered. However, even if I had an option of like catered, I wouldn't go for it. So I'm a bit picky with food, and I'm also a vegetarian. So I had a look at the menu, and the only thing I ate out of it was pasta. So I was like, there is literally no point of getting a catered hall. And also, one restriction with the catered hall is that they have like a specific time, 7 PM there's dinner, and I might want to have it at another time, so catered wasn't for me. So I applied for Unsworth Park, Utley House, Denmark Road also I applied for. I also applied for Richmond and Chevron because I didn't know, like I had no other option, but obviously Unsworth Park, and I would have been fine with Utley House as well, and Denmark Road. These three were like my top choices. I remember I was on a trip, in Missouri, and I was just sitting and I randomly was scrolling. They were like, okay, you've received an email which says that which accommodation you've gotten. I was like, there is no way I've gotten Unsworth Park, like no freaking way. And then I was so happy. I got Unsworth Park. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm not that lucky that I would get Unsworth Park, but I did, and it was amazing, by the way. I searched the whole YouTube. I was like, show me videos of Unsworth Park and like, how is accommodation? So maybe I'll create one of those vlogs of like Unsworth Park, and then if you're coming to Unsworth Park, you can get help out of it next year. So, but yeah, overall my experience with Uni Accommodation and Unsworth Park was absolutely amazing. I was also an event rep, by the way. If you're living in Uni Accommodation, you can actually become an event rep of that accommodation. With that specific role, obviously you can add to your CV if that's something that you care about, or you can that can contribute to your Stellify award. But apart from that, it's so much fun. I mean, it is a volunteering job, but you basically have to organize events for the university, and I had an amazing time doing that. I'm sure I have a lot of vlogs about that as well, so you can check them out later when I post them. But it's a whole different experience living in Uni Accommodations. You're always surrounded by students, everyone is studying, everyone is in the same zone as you. So I quite like the Uni Accommodation area. I love the Fallowfield campus as well, and of course Unsworth Park is amazing, so the best option I could have gotten. The reason I chose Uni Accommodation was because that's the same thing that I had heard, that you can't really socialize if you're living in a private accommodation, which I anyway did not do. But I would choose a Uni Accommodation any day over a private accommodation, as long as I would get like out of my three top choices. Though if I had gotten like Oak House or something, then I would have definitely considered a private accommodation, or maybe an accommodation which is very like dingy. Then yeah, I would have gone for a private accommodation. It's just that I got lucky, and I hope you get lucky as well. All the best for your whole journey. If you're coming to Uni Accommodation, honestly, don't worry about it. After a while, it'll just feel like a home. In the second semester, I was like, this is my home. I'm gonna roam around however I want. So don't worry about it. It'll be just okay. It'll be just fine. If you have any doubts, you can just put it in the comment section below, and I will try to answer it as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you have a great day ahead. Bye-bye. If you're looking for accommodation information. Wait, okay. See the Fallowfield camp. No. What was the damn point? Wait. I'll remember it. Yes, okay.
If you found the one, you should never give her up. I think it's the way life changes when in love, yeah.